this is even crazier because you're sharing a wall. You're neighbors. You never know. You
So
just
you're
don't
friends,
know who
but
you're
you're
gonna be
not
walking
friends. Is
beside.
that what it is? Yeah.
We can't
Exactly
tell everybody that Derek Cornelius is actually just off camera, staying in Ali's spare room right now.
Okay, stay quiet.
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Steven Caldwell, Kevin Kilbane and Luke Wileman.
Welcome back to Graham Leggett's for another edition of Park the Bus. And as the big guests keep on coming, this week we're heading to Stevie's native land, off to Scotland to talk to Alistair Johnston, find out how his recovery is going right now. The Canadian international out injured at the moment. We should start this week by saying happy birthday to Steven Caldwell.
Birthday. Yeah, 35. 35,
Happy
Stevie,
belated.
is it?
10.
Yeah. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, of course. Yeah.
You know what? I was a day late with the happy birthday wishes.
Yeah,
but
I think you were the first.
I was before him.
Out of the boys,
Yes.
definitely before him.
Yes,
He's
exactly.
too busy with the chickens and kids and
We've had
everything
a
else.
couple of losses this week, but we'll talk about that some other time.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
But, come on, we can move on from that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The game we did at the weekend had so much to talk about. Vancouver Whitecaps. Thomas Muller also celebrating his birthday, just a couple of days after Stevie's. Actually scored a hat-trick on his birthday. He's now up to 4 goals.
Yeah.
The Whitecaps scored more goals than they ever have in MLS, 7.
Yeah.
Surely right now they have to be considered MLS Cup contenders, but I'm more interested in the fact that a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, I said to you guys, how many goals will Thomas Muller score?
Yeah.
And you said 7.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very reasonable.
Yeah, slightly conservative by the looks
Slightly
of it now.
conservative. And Stevie came out with an utterly absurd, ridiculous low ball of 3.
Yeah.
Well, Muller's already got 4 in 2 starts.
Yeah, I know. I'm never one to tell Stevie I told you so, but sometimes just stick with me on these sort of things.
Can I explain first?
Come on then.
Please.
Yeah. Don't even talk
Okay.
about him taking penalties.
Well, why?
Don't go there on that.
Because you've got Brian White and Ryan Gold that would take penalties before him. Obviously, Ryan Gold's been injured for a while.
And you knew that. Yeah,
Right, I did
you
know
knew
that. But Brian White takes the penalties. Lo and behold, he gets an injury.
Yeah.
And 3 of Muller's 4 goals have been penalty conversions.
Okay, but he's had chances. The header he scored, you know what I was saying to you? He's going to get that type of chance. Just a little follow-up when the defenders switch off, the ball goes over the other side, a little knock back across goal, like the goal he got.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get at least one of those chances a game.
Yeah.
And he might not score every week, but he will score 1 in 2 of that type of chance.
Yeah.
So that led me to the number 7, and I thought I was maybe, we'll see how it goes, but
High.
no, that looks...
Kev, I have to say, I've been so impressed with his attitude, the way he's
looks
come
fit,
into
though.
this
He
league.
looks fit,
he's
doesn't he,
fit,
guys,
he's running around, he's at it. He wants to
on the
make
turf,
an impact right
there's
away.
a big difference for him on the
He's
turf.
not using an excuse of a European season, Luke.
If you'd said 2 or 3 months ago when Thomas Muller was playing in his final Club World Cup game for Bayern against PSG, I think it was, in that quarter-final, that in 2 or 3 months' time he'd be celebrating his birthday with a hat-trick in Vancouver, I mean, I don't think many people would have believed that at that point. No. But you have to... I mean, it was... Thinking he's going to score 3 goals. I mean, surely now Brian White isn't going to take penalties. Thomas Muller... Brian White is not now coming back to take penalties for Vancouver.
White wants to get 20 goals. White wants to get 20 goals this season.
This is Thomas Muller.
If it was MLS Cup and they had the penalty with 15 minutes to go, who would you want on that ball?
I'd want Muller, but if you're talking about Brian White here, Brian White's firmly established himself as the main player, arguably the best striker in MLS for what he does in his time at Vancouver. And again, it goes back to my point on seriously overlooked in so many different ways, Vancouver, by a lot of people south of us. It has to be said that they've not really given them a lot of credit. And it's only this season they've gone, yeah, they're doing OK, I suppose. And we've constantly said they underachieved. And clearly now, I know Muller was the game changer for them, but underachieved. But the penalty, I think White will take it because I think he's established now. He's now part of the US setup.
No way.
Do you not think?
No, hold on.
All right.
Let's
leave that one. Let's write that one down for another day then, yeah. And I'll come back and maybe again say I told you so. Then,
okay.
You say that to me often.
If there is a penalty for the Whitecaps, and I have to say, you mentioned Thomas Muller. At the weekend, he, in honour of his birthday, bought tickets to give to deserving families in Vancouver, that sort of thing. The impact that he is having.
360 tickets.
He gets it, doesn't he?
I mentioned in the broadcast, it was similar to the impact Son is having off the pitch at LAFC as well. It's not just about what he's doing on the pitch. But you look at Thomas Muller, 3 crowds of over 26,000 sold out in that lower bowl at Vancouver. So what they're doing in terms of getting this group going forward. Kev's talking about Brian White taking a penalty instead of Thomas Muller. I don't think Muller's the kind of guy that would go and take the ball off Brian White.
Not a chance.
But Brian White isn't going to take the ball off Thomas Muller.
Well, it's not the point, because Brian White's in situ. He's the guy that takes the pens. If Brian White's on the field, he takes the pens. If we saw it the other week, Thomas Muller was on the field when Brian White... No, sorry, Brian White, he went off, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
that's why he took it.
No, but if White was on, I'm fairly certain, and going to your point, Muller wouldn't take it off him. So Muller wouldn't kick a force. I don't think Brian White would either, if Muller had it. But the conversation is probably being had, and they've asked the question, who's on pens, and Brian White's our guy. I'd be fairly certain of that. I might be proved wrong, but there you go.
I look forward to asking Jesper Sorensen next time we get the chance to talk about it.
I wonder if he'll get involved in it, because he might want to just establish. I think it's important that any coach, we've talked about this many times in the past, about high-profile penalties being missed, the biggest one being Alphonso Davies in Qatar, and wondering if John Herdman, the coach at the time, had that discussion to say who is on penalties.
And he hadn't. So...
No, and I always remember, I think I told you guys this one as well, Sir Bobby Robson, every single game in the pre-match meeting, he would say, Alan, are you on penalties, Alan Shearer? And he would say, yes, boss. And I actually think it was the strangest thing ever. Of course, Alan Shearer's taking penalties, but what I think he was doing was establishing nothing ridiculous happening on the field, like we saw with Chelsea and Cole Palmer, and I think it was Madueke and that stuff that went on there. Just establishing he is the penalty taker. So I wonder if Sorensen might come in and say, let's just fix this right now, be clear. It's Brian White or it's Thomas Muller who is our primary penalty taker.
It's an interesting one. You spoke there about playoff game. If it was a big playoff game, who's going to take the penalties? But I think we're all looking at the Whitecaps in such a different light now. You mentioned there 26,000 every week that's watching them. There's expectancy they're going to go on now and seriously go deep. And we've felt that they've, and again, go back to the point of underachieving the last few years, where they are. That result is a statement of we're contenders now. If they
Although
don't...
Philly were dreadful.
Not to take anything away.
The size of
that's
the
not
game,
the Philly that we're used to.
The size of the game is right. How many times have we got to this stage of the season? Last year, I think, was it 7 out of 8 they lost or failed to lose in the last 7 games or something, whatever it was. Season before was a very similar scenario to that. They just about reached that playing game last year. This year's very different. Now, they've got to secure that home draw to think of us, we'll think of them in a different light. I feel as though they're in a position now where every team outside Vancouver now, or everyone outside Vancouver is thinking they're a serious threat. And I think they should be now. I'm not saying they're going to win it because we know what's happened, but I think they can win it. I think they're favourites now. I do feel with that result, I think they're favourites. I do think they're favourites.
I'll look at it like this, Luke. Müller has changed the whole, idea of Vancouver, the whole idea that they can go all the way. He's changed it. That signing was massive. They've never signed a guy like that. But they've got a goalie in Takoka that might be the best in the league this year.
Good goalie.
They've got Blackman, who's playing outstanding. Berhalter. Kubas might be the best 6 in the league. They've got Brian White, who Kev just said is one of the best, if not the best 9 in the league. And they've got Gold injured that we don't even talk about. Ali Ahmed, the Canadian, Jayden Nelson. So many people are contributing. Ocampo's been outstanding this season. So many people are contributing. That this is a complete team. This is not just about 1 or 2 guys. This is a team that are built with great tactics for Jesper Sorensen, who I have to give a shout out to. He's been incredible. That are primed and ready to do better than they've ever done in MLS playoffs.
Sabi's been good as well.
Sabi's been good. I'll let you say, but the tinkering of that system, because we felt with the signing of Muller, how's he going to fit into this team? The 4-3-3 system, the setup that Sorensen's used, he wouldn't fit into the side. So he's adjusted that. Now Muller is a 10, so it's a 4-2-3-1 system, and that's why Muller is so effective in that team, isn't he?
And the interesting question would be, where does Ryan Gold fit when he gets back in?
What do you think, Muller?
Well, I don't think we need to go there right now, because who knows what's happened, how long it's going to be. It might even be next season
right now,
before you get back.
I think Sabi would be the one out of everyone that's starting now.
I think right wing.
I think right side up front. I think that's where he comes back into it.
I want to talk about Ali Ahmed because he had a great international window and then came back and was brilliant for Vancouver. But before we do you want to revise your... I'll give you a second chance at how many goals Thomas Muller's. See if you get it better this time. Seeing as you were already done after 2 games.
How many games to go? How many games to go?
6, 7 in the league, and then the 3 or 4, maybe 5 in the playoffs. More than that?
4 or 5. Could be 6 in the playoffs, I'm saying here.
And you think he's taking penalties above Brian White?
I think he might. I'll revise it. It's not like me to change my opinion, though, but I have to revise this one. I think...
Well, you've got no choice.
You're already done.
He's beyond my total already. I'll say the way that he's playing, the way this team's playing, and honestly, there's zero fatigue in this guy's legs that I see. He wants to play every minute. Yeah. He's not putting his hand up to say, take me off in 70, 75 minutes. I'm going to say he might get 9 or 10 goals now. Oh. I really think... I went totally the opposite way. And that's all down to Thomas Muller. And this was never anything against him.
So just 6 more?
Yeah, 6, 7 more. You think more?
I think my conservative
a goal a game? Is he getting a goal a game,
double figures. Even if he gets 1 in 2, he's probably getting 10, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's where I think he'll get a 1. I think, as I said, I think he'll get at least 1 chance a game, like if similar to the one he got at the weekend. If I'm giving him a 1 in 2 chance of those, I think 10. I think double figures for him.
And you said?
I'm going to say, 10, 11. 10. I thought maybe just into the...
I'm going 12.
Right. OK. I'll go 11 then. 10, 11, 12.
10, 11, 12. And the last one will be an MLS Cup.
Oh, wow.
That'll be his 12th when he takes the ball away from Brian White and scores the last-minute penalty. And we all go, yes, Kev, told you so. Hey? Ali Ahmed, and we saw him for Canada. We got the goal, the assist. He was great. It was funny, we mentioned on the broadcast how someone had brought up the fact that Ali Ahmed was good on set pieces for Canada. And Jesper Sorensen was asked, is he going to take them for you? And he just said, no.
Yeah.
He's already got Sebastian Berholt, so he doesn't...
And how good was he with his crossing?
Exactly. The thing for Ali Ahmed is, and maybe I'm overthinking this in terms of him getting into the 11. Ali Ahmed, I'm sure, just wants to be in a World Cup squad. But there isn't really any hope of him getting into an 11. He could have the best season ever. But if you're playing Alphonso Davies further forward on the left, and now, when we talk about it in a minute, this guy's gone and locked in Richie Laryea in his race for the roster.
That was a big
call. By the way, locking in Richie Laryea and not Tejan Buchanan.
This one's blowing my mind at the moment,
right?
This one.
So first off, before we get to...
rationale behind that.
OK, we'll let you have a go in a minute. Ali Ahmed, do you see him as being that squad player under Jesse Marsh who comes in late in games? He's there if Davies isn't, or Laryea isn't, and Davies moves back, and then... If Davies played left-back, would Ali Ahmed start?
Yes, probably.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. I agree,
I know
how much this kid has come.
How far he's came, and the job that he does for the team, not just on the ball, off the ball as well. We have to recognise that. And he's a player that's playing with unbelievable confidence at the minute. And the one thing I've always questioned him with, Kev, is the final product. But we can't deny in the last 3-4 games, the final product's been there. He's got the goals, he's got the assists. He's starting to finish off his good plays with a final act, whether it's a shot or a cross. And I think that's very important because I believe I said in the broadcast on Saturday, if he keeps up this form and there is an end product to his play, they're not going to be able to keep him. He's going to Europe because his legs are so good. He's up and down all game. There's a number of teams throughout Europe that'll fancy him.
It could be now or never for Vancouver Whitecaps because of that, because of what could happen if they were to win the MLS Cup anyway. Jesse likes him there. I want to just make this point as well, just in relation to whether it's Alphonso at left-back or Alphonso further forward. Would you rather have Alphonso Davies and Ali Ahmed as your left-sided pairing or Richie Laryea and Alphonso Davies? That, to me, strikes of fear in opposition. It strikes of we're going to open up teams, regardless of, I know, Ali Ahmed's at a level now where he can seriously put himself right up with those guys. But that left-siding, in my opinion, of Richie Laryea at left-back and Alphonso Davies, that to me, well, it's world-class because you've got a world-class left-sider anyway in Alphonso Davies. So it's one, to me, I think, that could open up teams in the World Cup.
Does it depend on the opponent? Do we really think that that's going to be key?
I don't know if it does because we don't know who the opponent is and you've already locked in Richie Laryea. For the opening game. So it doesn't matter who they're playing, you've locked him in.
That's true. But I think Laryea just brings this spirit. You know, we know how Richie Laryea plays. We know why he's important to any team. It's this aggression, this spirit, this ability to be in control but get others out of control. That's what he does. Every time Richie Laryea is diving or going over or confronting an opponent, he is in complete control. I promise you guys. He's never getting sent off.
I've always felt that, actually.
He is. But the other guys are not, and he winds people up, and he brings a spirit to the Canadian men's national team that's really important. So that's why I've locked him in. But when I look at an opponent that might be coming, if it's a high press and a high energy needed from the front, Ali Ahmed on that left midfield position is vital.
Can he do it better than Alphonso Davies?
So that's the
in
debate,
what Jesse
isn't it?
Marsch wants.
That's the debate, though, isn't it?
Will he do it better or
Davies?
can he do it better are two big questions. Is Alphonso Davies got enough humility that he'll do the job that Ali Ahmed will do, that Jesse Marsch is asking? That's what we'll find out. That's what it'll come down to. And no matter what, Alphonso Davies will be in the team.
But there'll be loads of people listening to this are kind of laughing. They laugh at us when we're saying it. They're laughing at Richie Larea or Alphonso Davies as a left-back. Are you serious? People actually will be saying that. But there's total rationale in what you're saying, because it's exactly... If you don't fit into what Jesse wants, how can you play? It's always going to come about the coach and the team itself is bigger than the individual.
From my point of view, I want to clarify, Alphonso Davies will 100% be in that starting 11. The question is it left back or left midfield? And what knock-on effect does that have? I believe, as you know from Race for the Roster, is that Alphonso Davies will be in left midfield because Larea brings too much. And that's unfortunate for Ali Ahmed. But Alphonso Davies has to put his national team first. He has to do the job that's asked for him. And if he's asked to sprint and run and press from a higher position in left midfield, he should do it. He needs to do it. And Canada's success will be contingent on that look. The
other thing about Richie Larea is he's played at a World Cup. And you've played in a World Cup. You know that you need that balance of, someone who's actually been there and done it before is going to be in a better position than somebody who is coming into a first World Cup, surely, especially with it being a home World Cup, to be able to go on that experience.
I agree. There's probably there's a plus and negative to that, isn't there? There is, because that rawness, that wanting to be part of something special comes into it as well. But I do agree with that. I think for the experience that he's brought all round, Alphonso Davies, that is, and what he's produced in Europe, and the big game mentality that he's had continuously, whether it's a club game or whether it's a big Champions League game aside, I feel as though that he has to be considered. He has to be considered further forward for a number of reasons, right? So I'm going to maybe going off on a tangent bit there, but I think that if Larea's in the side, then Larea brings something totally different. Personally, I think better defensively. I think he's going to implement exactly what Jesse Marsch wants and seriously listen to the organisation of a back four, whether or not he's taking his position off a centre-half, where if the centre-half has stepped up 5 yards, is he just tucked in enough, has the ability to see and recognise what's required on the pitch? I think Richie Larea brings a lot more experience than even Alphonso Davies there. But if we're going further forward and we're looking at the first-time World Cup player in Ali Ahmed, I just feel as though that, it carries weight, what you're saying. Serious weight, Luke.
The other thing with Larea is that he's got that versatility, which within a World Cup squad, you're talking about locking him in at left-back, but he's played right-back. He can play central midfield this season for TFC. He's played in the centre of defence. And Robin Fraser even said he reminded him a bit of a Moise Bombito back in
Luke,
the early days.
How many players in the setup now can play in three different positions?
Lots
Whether
important.
It's Nico Seger, Alistair Johnston, Tajon Buchanan can play either side. You've got Ishmael Koenig, maybe players in 8 or a 10. There's so much flexibility within the system, isn't there?
It's quite ironic that Jesse's tactics are so sort of fixed and set and they have so much flexibility. I'm thinking like another coach, what he would do with these guys, how they would drift between a back three and a back four and wide guys, inside wingers, all this kind of stuff, which Jesse is usually sticks to a pretty set 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2. There's real verticality to the way that his teams play. But I think when you look at some of these guys and how they could play in different positions, it could be unique with a different coach in charge.
So on Race for the Roster, you said you were locking somebody in, and I'm thinking, OK, it's Tajon Buchanan. Stevie's alluded to the fact that that's coming. Then he goes and locks in Richie Larea instead of Tajon Buchanan, and poor old Tajon's still sitting there saying, hey, I'm playing well in La Liga, I've played for my country really well. And
I don't think he cares.
This guy don't think No, I'm sure I'm sure he doesn't care one bit. But come on, what are you waiting for?
Well, I mean, we just had that 10-minute discussion on this guy, that guy, Ali Ahmed, trying to get him in the team. There's a chance to think that Ali Ahmed plays off the right. Tajon Buchanan at his best is absolutely in the starting 11. But I just want to see more and more games from him. I just think that the way that the last couple of years has went and how he's played very little football it's delightful to see him back. And
another 90,
best.
Another 90
yeah,
for Villarreal at the weekend. It's good for him, isn't it,
7, 8, 9, 10 90s in a row, and he's playing some high-profile games in La Liga. He's going to get locked in at some point, absolutely, if that continues.
So
I want to wait and see. I want to wait and see. I'm not going to put a number on it.
Are we going to wait for the next window?
Like Alistair Johnston, I'm not going to put a number on it. But, yeah, you don't put numbers on things as players. Tanny always say, not put a number on it.
You're a broadcaster now. You've got to put a number. You've got to make a decision.
I think if we see him play the next 2 games in October, the 2 games in November, I think round about Christmas time. Yeah.
Stevie, yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if he goes and scores 5 goals in 6 games or, 3 assists,
or a hat-trick
2
in
goals.
La Liga.
Yeah, we have to see more from his form to see that he's consistently back at his best and that there's no way that Canada could go into that game. I mean, locks are, there is no way Canada can go into that game, assuming that the player's fit without him in the team. I'm not quite there yet on Tejon, but I could be in a few weeks.
You're there on Alistair Johnston. We'll talk to him in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Celtic, of course. Alistair Johnston has that big rivalry with Rangers. He'll now have the rivalry with Derek Cornelius, who's made the move to Rangers. Derek Cornelius going from Marseille, where it's not exactly stable, to a Rangers situation where the whole stadium at the weekend was calling for the manager to be fired.
Relegation threatened Rangers.
It's not exactly... He's gone into... Like, if he wasn't aware, like, before he got there, just exactly what kind of environment that is at the moment, it's not a case of him being able to just get his feet under the table and enjoy himself for a few weeks while he gets used to it. He is thrown right in there. But how much might that help him, Stevie, as he's in terms of going through experiences of being able to get yourself ready for a World Cup and everything that brings, and the stress and the pressure?
Yeah, I mean, stress levels, there's not much higher, Kev, is there?
Oh, no.
Than Glasgow when it's negative. When it's positive, it's fantastic, but when it's negative, there is some pressure. And even although most of that negativity is pointed towards Russell Martin, the coach, it's going to affect the players because there was a number of people around Scottish football that have been in the game as journalists or as pundits, as ex-players, as players, that said that is the worst they've seen Ibrox in, 10, 20, 30 years. It was that bad, the negativity towards Russell Martin, and it's building, and it's not going to go away. So,
What a start that is as well from him. He potentially could go, Martin. We'll see what's going to happen the next couple of weeks.
New manager comes in.
It's a bad situation for him, isn't it?
It's not great. It's not great, but he had to take it. He had to go. He came off the bench the weekend and came on, actually had the ball in the back of the net, disallowed goal. So he's just got to go play. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree, it's a great experience to go there and to be in another hostile environment.
Playing under pressure, I look back at certain scenarios to Michael when you're playing under pressure, when things are going against the team, you individually. You look back on it, it's almost the making of you as a player, but for him to go into that environment, I think he's going away for a release, isn't he, from Marseille? You're saying there it's a bit hostile at the moment, things aren't going particularly well. He's not playing, so he goes to get game time, and he goes to this environment where he's, as we spoke of, he's going to get a lot of the ball. And sometimes when you're playing under pressure and you're on the ball for long spells, like centre-halves are now in the modern game, it can be a curse for you. Because they're expecting, that edginess of move it forward, get it forward. Because the crowd are edgy, you get edgy yourself. It's a tough. You know yourself with Sheffield United, the position that they're in now. Supporting a team in trouble is, and playing for a team that's in trouble. Oh, it can be torture. It can seriously be torture.
When I was at Sunderland, guys, we were bottom of the league.
Yeah, I was at Sunderland, the same scenario.
Scenario, and we're playing a game against Portsmouth, and there was a bad goal went in. I think it was Matt Taylor from about 40 yards, and Kelvin Davies was getting some stick, goalkeeper at the time. Fan came on the field, and the noise in the stadium was one of the worst situations I've ever been in. And I'm ashamed to say, but when that game resumed, and I think we're 3-1 down, 4-1 down, you're saying, I don't really want the ball here. I don't really want to be on the ball. It was that bad, that much pressure in the Premier League. And this is the kind of situation that Derek Cornelius is going into. You learn a lot about yourself. I was 24, 25 at the time. I learned a lot from that about me. I'm glad that I sort of progressed from that.
I'm glad it happened in many respects because of what has become off the back.
But the shame of kind of thinking, me pride myself on being that leader, being the guy that can rally a team or whatever, and thinking, like, I just want this game to be over, and I just don't want to make a mistake, because I don't want to be the guy that's being confronted or attacked or whatever on the field. And that's what it means playing for Rangers, Celtic, Sunderland, Newcastle, Liverpool, Everton. These guys, it means the world to them, these big teams throughout the UK. And he's going to experience that. And he's had it in Marseille, he's got it in Rangers. He's going to be a better player for it.
Yeah, he will be,
As long as he can deal with it. As long as he's not getting into that mindset where what is happening off the field is impacting him on it. And either, I'm not sure Russell Martin is going to be able to fix what's going on there. So you then potentially talk about a new manager comes in. Does he like Derek Cornelius? Is he his kind of player? So there's all those questions, of course. So that's one side of Scotland. And as we continue, we can chat with Alistair Johnston, who is on the other side of the divide in Glasgow. Well, let's head over to Scotland, and we are joined by Alistair Johnston, Canadian international and Celtic defender. Alistair, thank you for being with us today. Great to see you. How are you?
Very well, guys. How are you guys?
Doing well.
We're doing okay. First off, we need an update on where you're at with your fitness. How are you right now? What's the time scale? When are you going to be back? How are you feeling? All of those kinds of things.
Yeah, honestly, when the original injury happened, I kind of feared the worst, but, you know, it's obviously a pretty significant injury still. But look, I'm actually ahead of where I thought I was going to be, but still a long way to go. But yeah, I'm not really going to put a timeline on it just yet, you know, kind of just taking it day by day. But the plan is that honestly, I feel really good. And that's kind of like almost the hardest part about the whole thing, is that I feel like I'm almost ready to go out there and play. But obviously, I know there's still a lot of boxes that need to get checked before I can get back to my, you know, full level. So yeah, I'm just kind of taking it day by day, but hoping to be back here in the nearer future than probably originally expected.
Take us through it, Ali. It looked a real serious one when you went down. We saw you getting stretchered off it. We feared the worst. You know, what was it like? I know it was a substantial tear. What was the process like? Did you know right away? Then when the news came, how was your mindset?
Well, it's a really weird one. I've never done a muscle before, let alone a hamstring, so I didn't really know what to expect. But when it originally happened, I kind of felt it was something more than a cramp. But in the moment, I saw it got played into their number 9, who laid it off to their number 10, who was walking onto it. And I thought at this moment, okay, where the space is behind me. So I almost put my head down first, take a hard 3 steps. So I was getting into top gear, and before I knew it, like I just felt something, felt like my hamstring just kind of cramped up right at the top. But I was expecting the ball to be getting played at any moment into this space, and it was going to be a 1v1. So I almost tried to, I was thinking, do I need to jump here and try and lay out and maybe get like a diving header on the ground to stop this guy getting put through on a breakaway? But then I kind of, you know, you do check your shoulder to track the ball. The ball wasn't there, and I realized, like, okay, I need to go down here. And it wasn't the most graceful thing I've ever done in my entire life, how I hit the ground. But instantly when I was laying there, I was hoping it was just going to be a cramp. But, you know, our physios kind of ran on, and they knew instantly. Our head of medical, Tim, was like, look, based on what I saw, I just want to bring the stretcher out to be sure. And it was the right decision. I obviously was thinking, maybe I can get a cramp fix in, maybe it'll go away. But he was like, no, based on how high you grabbed it and everything, yeah, we think it's going to be pretty significant. But, you know, we've got guys on our team that have history with them. Obviously, Kieran Tierney, he came up to me, he's like, did you hear a pop? And I kept saying, I'm like, I don't think so. Like, but again, I'd never done a muscle before to even know, like, did I feel a pop? Did I hear a pop? But I think that's when I was kind of like, okay, it's going to be serious, but hopefully not the worst case scenario. And luckily the scan kind of backed that up as well. So yeah, it's a serious injury, but it's not, you know, wasn't one that needed surgery, which was definitely a massive thing for myself, not only at the beginning of a club season, but also, you know, from the national team perspective, coming into a World Cup year, it's kind of the last thing you want to start off a season. But I was actually lucky to a degree that it wasn't as bad as it could have been and originally was feared to be.
Yeah, we all hate, don't we, Steve? We hate watching, and I think you're probably the same. There's nothing worse when you have no influence at all. Is it a chance for you to reset? You've played a lot of football, you've had a big summer as well, you just got married across the summer. Is it a chance for you to have a bit of a reset now? Do you feel that? Congratulations as well, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, look, a couple of people have brought up to me how many matches I've played over the past couple of years, and it's something that when you're in it, you don't truly understand because you're a footballer. You just love playing. It's what you want to be doing. I'd rather be playing, 60 matches a year than 10. So it's a good problem to have. But from, a mental side and obviously a physical side, maybe it was the body telling me that, okay, I just needed a little break here and a little reset. So, I've had so many players reach out to me, both from the national team and guys that I've played with, played against, just reaching out, making sure that I'm mentally feeling okay about it, but also just saying like, look, this is a rare opportunity where you're actually going to have a couple months here to, do the other things that you probably don't really get to enjoy in life when you're in your mid-20s as a professional footballer. So they said really, as they said, kind of smell the flowers, enjoy the sun, if there is any sun here. But so it's been good in that sense. I've tried to do little things that, I probably couldn't do as much before, put as much energy into, which has been nice. And yeah, it's definitely given me a bit more, clarity about how badly I want to be back out there, because I'm the same as you, Kevin. And just watching is so hard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know, Alistair, just a quick one for you, just on your, your time, obviously, and the amount of games you've played. I was actually just talking before we came on today, and it's something I maybe want to get into the guys with, but I think it's something that is overlooked, that the travel and getting back. Now, you're travelling across the world to get back to play for Celtic, and then vice versa to go and play for your national team off the back of a tough game whenever you're playing for Celtic. How has your body reacted to that travel and going through different time zones and things like that? Because it is something that's overlooked. And I used to feel, coming back after international games, I was wrecked, and I almost tried to just get through that weekend game after an international. Monday, I was done. I was kind of done.
But that's because the Irish was one long party.
Well, no,
you would go away to camp
no. We had serious pressure, Luke. Serious pressure on us, and we played. But I honestly, Monday morning after getting back to play for my club, I was done, and it was Wednesday, Thursday before I felt right. I'm actually feeling okay again. So, can you tell us something about that process that you have around travelling back and forth with Canada back to Celtic?
Well, it's funny, actually. At Celtic, we've got a lot of guys that actually make my flight look pretty easy to a degree. Obviously, our Japanese boys and our Korean boys, and obviously we had some Australians as well. And you see the flights that they're doing, and I'm like, you know what? A transatlantic makes that look, like a walk in the park, honestly. Like what they're doing, I mean, like an 8-hour to Dubai and then another 8-hour to Tokyo, and then maybe they're playing another game down in like Singapore. I'm like, what in the world? So, yeah, it's really difficult for us. As I've gotten used to it and done it more, I've gotten better with it, but it's exactly that. So, for example, some of the windows, thankfully now it's really been 2-match windows, but before, when it was 3-match windows when we were doing qualifying, it was even more difficult. But since I've been with Celtic, it's mainly been 2-match windows. But if you're playing that second game, for example, it doesn't necessarily have to be in Toronto. It could be, for example, in LA, like we played, or down in Central America. So you're not getting a direct flight necessarily, well, never to Glasgow. Hopefully it's just going to be one connection. But normally you'll have played that second game on a Tuesday night. You then will, stay with the team, sleep that night, ideally if you can sleep after a match, which I never can. And then you will never get a flight back over the Atlantic until it's the following evening. So you'll get that one on the Wednesday. It'll be normally a red eye. You'll land sometime on Thursday, probably in London. Then you have to fly up to Glasgow. So by this point, it's Thursday afternoon. You're jet lagged. You're just exhausted. It's been a long travel day. But you're playing a 12 o'clock kickoff on Saturday up in Inverness against Ross County. So
glamour.
It's exactly that. Yeah, exactly. So like this has happened to me multiple times now. Like they've gone, look, Alistair, get your rest in on Thursday evening and we'll see you for Friday. But obviously bring your travel bag because you're going to be starting on Saturday. So it's exactly that. You show up on Friday morning. All the lads are like, oh, good to see you. How you feeling? You're just like, just got to get through it. Match day -1 session. Go out there, go through the motions a little bit. Get on the bus up there. You sleep like a rock that night. Hopefully, they give you all the tart cherry juices and all those kind of things. And then you wake up, you play that game, and it's exactly that. For me, that first match back is really about, okay, let's just stick to the fundamentals here. Yeah, maybe my high speed running isn't going to be the same. My attacking output is been like, all right, let's keep a clean sheet. Let's just do our defensive work and get through it. And I think the coaching staff completely understands that as well. And generally after that, then they'll give me, Sunday, Monday, even potentially the Tuesday off, just to fully get my body back and ready in the UK time zone, because it is a lot to ask. And that's the importance, though, of having a big squad, I think, so that those kind of games you can potentially rotate. But up here, we have the deepest squad in Scotland, but still, you need to win every single match. There's pressure every single match, so it's difficult. It's not always easy as a gaffer to rotate. So he wants to go out there with his guys. Doesn't matter if you're flying in from, a two-legged stint out in the Middle East or in Japan or in North America. For some of us, like, you're expected to hit the ground running and perform. And again, that's something I've come to learn and live with, but also kind of enjoy. And you're never truly going to enjoy it. It's brutal, but it's football, and there's definitely worse things in the world to have to be doing than playing football off a long flight. So it is what it is.
And of course, you missed the camp where it finishes in Wales, and you could have had a 45-minute hopper flight back from Cardiff to Glasgow.
Yeah.
Probably been
Oh,
the
you
easiest.
should have seen that. So me and the team admin, Jan, we always kind of connect, the weeks leading into a camp, and he'll send me over like, how do these flights look for you and all of this. And normally it's, it's like, all right, he's trying to book me on a 4 connector, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But this one I was looking, I'm like, this is the simplest little, I could potentially even get a train. I could get a train up if I wanted to. And we were kind of having a laugh at that. Like, this is going to be the easiest window we've ever had. And then, yeah, knock on wood, that's how it goes. So yeah, hopefully I'll be back soon enough to get another kind of one like that. But we'll see. I have a feeling the next couple of windows are all going to be all over the place as it looks back in North America, and we'll see where the March ends up. But hopefully I'm back in time for one of those.
Kev mentioned the fact that he's not very good at watching games. I'm sure it's difficult. Did you see the Canada games? What did you think of it? And how was it watching from a distance of what was going on this last camp in Romania and Wales?
Yeah, my dad came up clutch, actually. He was FaceTiming me while watching the game at home, so I was watching it through his iPad so I could watch. But that's, again, that's my team. Those are all my brothers, and you just want to see them be successful. And it was, again, both matches were just extremely impressive. I think we showed, you look at the possession stats, probably, I'm guessing we weren't above 40% really in probably either of the matches, but still by far the more dangerous, by far the most threatening team in both matches. And it was impressive because not only was I missing, obviously the likes of Fonzie, Moyes, Liam Müller, like there's still, there's guys that are obviously missing that have contributed a lot to this team, but still, like, we're showing how much quality we truly have and depth we have in this team. And that, again, guys are taking these opportunities and grabbing them with 2 hands so that, by the time hopefully I am back fit, is that, your starting spot isn't necessarily going to be there. And that's something that you need as a national team.
It's
and
okay.
Again,
Stevie has you locked in.
You're still locked in.
Yeah, got me locked in.
Race for the roster.
You're still there, mate.
All right,
He's thinking
let me
about
talk to
unlocking
Jan,
you,
then.
but
I'll get
so
my
far
flights.
he's okay.
I'll get my flights booked then. I'll get my flights booked with Jan. But it's good. It's a sign that we're growing as a footballing nation, and it's a sign also, again, you're coming over to Europe. I'm not sure what the stat was the last time we won in Europe, but then we just do it in a week span. We beat 2 European teams. Like, hey, how's that look? So again, really proud of the guys. Great performances all around, both individually and collectively, and we continue to make noise and show that we are ready for this massive challenge, this massive task of having a home World Cup. But the best thing you can do going into that is to have that momentum and that confidence that isn't built on something that's a fallacy. No, like, we actually have tangible things that we can look back on and say, yeah, we can beat these teams based on how we performed in Copa America, how we performed in friendlies. There's a lot to look back on and be happy with, but there's also stuff that you can look back on. You look at the Gold Cup, and it's always a good humbler and reminder of what happens when you're not quite at it and you're not playing exactly how Jesse wants us to play. You can lose to anyone too. So it's a really nice kind of spot that we're at. It keeps everyone on our toes. And again, with the depth that we've built, no one's name is really written in pen as much as Stevie. Steve-O there wants to have it for his little TSN segment. I don't think any name is really written in pen.
It's easy when you're sitting in this seat, Ali. It's a bit more difficult when you're in your position.
Yeah, you know it.
Is the success of Canada next summer contingent on that competition? You mentioned a bit there, looking over your shoulder, but actually that breeds success, doesn't it? Having everyone competing against each other to hopefully be in a starting 11 or at least being a 26-man squad. Is that really important for this team as it evolves and tries to get to knockout games at a home World Cup?
I think 100%. I don't think there's a doubt about that. Because in my opinion, still, yes, you want to have an 11 that have played together and have a great understanding, but you also want to have 11 players that are starting the match that are in really good form. And that means that probably previously, maybe we didn't have as much, quality and depth, that it was pretty obvious who was going to start no matter how their club situation was, no matter how they were playing, whether they were playing, all those kind of things. It was just already kind of, you knew what the starting 11 was going to look like. And then when you have that breathes just, a bit of complacency and a bit of, well, if I do have a bad game, what's really going to happen here? But now you have a bad training session, you're a bit worried. Oh, am I not going to get my name called here? Or am I not going to be one of the ones off the bench? Am I not going to get called in next camp? I think that's something that we've continued to develop in my time since I've been in the program, which is, again, something that is just so nice to see, because, yes, selfishly, I want to be a massive part of this team, and I want to be a massive part of what we do on the pitch. But as a national team player, your main goal is to leave the national team in a better place than when you joined. And where we are now compared to where we were before, and that's down to the coaching staff that have been here with John, Amaro, obviously Jesse now taking the torch, but also the players that have continued just to push and push and push and give everything. We've put this program in such a better place now, such a healthier environment, that's really exciting. And I'm happy, I want to be competing. Because when I first came in the door, it was Richie Larea that I was trying to go for his spot. And now you look at the fullbacks that we have. I mean, Richie can play any position, but between myself, Nico, Richie, Fonzie, Sam Adekube, Zorhan Basong, the list just goes on and on and on. And that's something that should excite football fans, that we have that, that you have to come in, you have to be fully committed to every single training session, not just every match with the national team, if you want to keep your spot.
As a Celtic guy, I presume you're not really a big fan of Rangers. However,
let's be fair and let's be frank. He's playing for the biggest club in world football, so there's no one, there's no team that can compete with Celtic. So there you go, right now off the bat, yeah.
But now you have a Canadian with Derek Cornelius making the move to Rangers. So did you talk to him about Glasgow and what it's like there? And now that there's a Canadian in there, do you have to secretly hope that Derek Cornelius and Rangers actually get a few results sooner or later?
Oh, what a question.
And don't spend the season fighting relegation.
Be careful how you answer this one.
Relegation threatened Rangers, I'll state that.
Yeah, no, I love DC, but there's not a single bone in my body that could ever pull for them. I'll tell you that much. It's funny, I texted him because he hadn't reached out to me, and I'd opened up social media because my dad had sent me a tweet from, I think, Fabrizio Romano saying, here we go, and it was Derek Cornelius to Rangers. I said, whoa, what's going on here? But I texted him, and he was like, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen, looking at places to live and all that. And I said, okay, here we go. That'll add a little bit of extra spice for me to it. But trust me, I've heard and learned from other guys who have played between the Celtic and Rangers kind of dynamic that we have when national team teammates have, gone out for lunch or gone out for dinner, and that's gotten out. It has not been pretty. So I told him pretty quickly, like, look, I know Marseille's a serious club, but this is even crazier because you're sharing a wall. You're neighbors. You never know. You
so
just
you're
don't
friends,
know who
but
you're
you're not friends. Is that what it is? Yeah.
We can't
Exactly
tell everybody that Derek Cornelius is actually just off camera, staying in Ali's spare room right now.
Hey, stay quiet.
Well, I was just going to ask that, actually. Two questions. Are you and Derek going to have meals together in Glasgow? And,
well, that's
and
a no
the second
now.
question is, where can you find flowers in Glasgow? That was mentioned earlier. I've never seen a flower in that city in my life.
Only for 1 month a year, I think that they come out. They're already, unfortunately, they're dying out in my garden right now as I look. But no, I'll try and sneak Derek over probably for a welcome meal, but then I'll let him know this is where we draw the line. And I'll see you at Celtic Park or at Ibrox, but that's about it. Or maybe at the airport when we're flying back to national team duty together. So it'll be really interesting. It's something a dynamic that, again, I haven't really had to deal with. Obviously, when I first came in, Scott Arfield was still at Rangers, but wasn't a part of the national team at that point. But even then, I was told, like, yeah, you're not allowed to talk to him. And so my first actual kit swap with Scott, and the first time I really got a chance to talk to him was actually after we played Falkirk last month, earlier this year, in the Cup. And he came over. He's a great lad, but it was just like, yeah, I couldn't get to know you before because you were, you played for Rangers.
What do you do? What do you do on the field, on the pitch when it's a 50-50? Is it just I'm going through him regardless?
Yeah. I mean, there's no. But again, that's me. Like, yeah, you could have put Stevie out there, and I still would have gone through him too. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he would have gone through you also.
Exactly.
He would have. Yeah, that's a bad matchup for me actually.
Brilliant stuff. Your journey's incredible, Ali. Like, we've got to talk about that a little bit. How you've came through, and you know your college career, and then into MLS, and where you are. We're watching you last year play against Bayern Munich incredibly well, in the Allianz in Munich, and you're playing Champions League football. It's remarkable. Do you sometimes kind of pinch yourself, or are you still driving? You know, I know your personality. You're still driving to be better and play higher and do more. But do you sometimes sit back? Does this injury give you an opportunity to sit back and realise how far you've came?
Yeah, again, and I think that's what's really important is that when you do have a setback like this, that you still find a way to see the positive out of it. And you're exactly right. It's a great opportunity, probably for the first time since I've really been over here, just to actually take a deep breath and look back on what I've accomplished. And, you know, again, I always kind of touch on, you know, we would go into our back garden, and me and my younger brother would go and just kick a ball around for hours before we had to come in and go to actual soccer practice with our teams. And, you know, to tell that, you know, 13, 14-year-old that he would have played in a World Cup by now, he would have played and heard the Champions League anthem, represented a club like Celtic, represented his own country over 50 times. And, you know, now I'm in line to hopefully be a part of, you know, a home World Cup. It's like, man, it doesn't really get any better than that. So it definitely, it helps get through those kind of tough days, you know, especially when you're injured and you just want to be out there and it feels like, man, this is really dragging on. It does really kind of bring it all full circle and remind you like how good and how lucky I am to, you know, have done what I've been able to accomplish. But also with, as you touched on, like the pathway that I took was not a very straightforward pathway as well. And not only would it have been seemed outlandish to 13-year-old version of me, but also to 21-year-old version of me when I was graduating university thinking, oh yeah, you're going to play for your national team. I was like, no, look, I'm just hoping that my economics degree actually carries some weight and I can get a job somewhere. So it's kind of funny how it's all really worked out. But again, and that's what I've always told, you know, younger players when they ask me for advice, is that if you truly love what you do, no coach telling you no is going to stop you, that you will find your way if you truly just enjoy doing it. And that was for me, is I was always told I was undersized, would never make it pro, you know, TFC Academy never wanted me, and I was in their own backyard and all these kind of things. There was just so many setbacks that the majority of players would have just quit then. And so many of them did. But for me, it was like, well, I still love the sport. Like, I'm still going to wake up at 7 a.m. every Saturday morning and watch the Premier League. I'm still going to rush home from school to get, you know, that 3 o'clock kickoff for the Champions League. Like, that's not going to stop that. And I'm still going to want to go out in the back garden and play football. So, like, why not just keep trying to play at the highest level and see what happens? And for me, you know, before I knew it, like, players just kind of fell away. And before you know it, I was one of the last men standing, it kind of felt like. And all of a sudden, yeah, I got drafted, and here I am, you know, at my first national team camp, and then just continued to learn and grow from that, and just absorb as much information as possible. And that's something that I've been lucky with not only, you know, some of the players that I've been able to play with who have taught me so much, but also coaches like yourself, Steve-O, just kind of taking in all that information you guys gave me, and seeing how can I add that to my game, and watching other players and seeing, okay, obviously I'm not the same physical build or the same talent level as that player, but what does that person do that I could potentially bring into my game? And just trying to add and continue to develop. And I think that when you just focus on yourself and you continue to just take incremental gains, before you know it, you're into a pretty high stratosphere where there aren't a lot of players. And then every 1% gain now at this level, you know, could be the difference between playing, you know, at a USL level or between playing at a Champions League level. And I think that that's something that, you know, I've definitely come to learn and appreciate. So I don't really take any day for granted, I'd say, looking back on my journey.
Just on the TFC rejection, I suppose you'd probably say, Alistair. There's so many of you guys now that's playing in the national team that's from a similar area to where you are that had to go away, had a different path in going through TFC. Is that your driving tool? Is the bitterness? And why did so many fail to make the progression at TFC that come from this area, I suppose?
Well, it's a great point, and I think it really should be almost a case study because it's exactly that. The number of GTA players that didn't come through the TFC Academy it's alarming to a degree. And whether you want to put it down to talent identification or whatever it was, for me personally, is that I never saw it as bitterness after. It was just one of those ones, they just started their academy. They called over my Richmond Hill team, who was the best team in Ontario at that point. We played, and they took 10 out of the starting 11 players and brought them to the TFC Academy to start that age group. And I was the one starter who didn't get to go. They didn't want me. They thought I was too small. And, you know, I think for my parents, it was really difficult in terms of like, man, like that's just so harsh. But I'd been hearing the same thing from provincial teams as well. So it wasn't something that really I was just like, you know, it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to be a late bloomer. That's the case. But it helped me because I was never given anything in the footballing world on a silver platter. I never felt like I'd made it at the age of 14, 15, which I always felt that a lot of those kids that played in those, the MLS academies potentially did. But then I would always look back on it and think like, I really would rather peak at 25 years old than at 16 years old, because at 16 years old, I have not played a single first team game. I've not made a single dollar on a first team contract. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that you haven't done, but because you feel once you've made it there, it almost feels like you've climbed that mountain that now everything's just going to become easier. That's not the case. Actually, the hardest years are really from 16 to probably 21, 22, where you really need to not only show that you have the physical tools, the technical tools, and but also that you have the mental strength and ability to learn and deal with challenges. And I think that sometimes is that, you know, we often overlook that part. And those are definitely the tools. Those mental tools are the ones that have, you know, given me the most success I've found in my professional career. And the reason why I've gotten those tools and accumulated them is because of what happened, you know, between ages probably 12 and 18, you know, those hard points, which, you know, a person from the outside looking in would have said, those are serious setbacks. But for me, it was just like, okay, now it's just one coach doesn't really like how I play. That's fine. Like, I'm going to keep playing. Like, I just love the game. I'm going to keep trying to learn and get better, and we'll see where it takes me. So I think that those are the kind of things that I've noticed within our national team group that is a very strong characteristic of us, and is what makes us really difficult to beat, is that we are mentally really strong. And then when you add in the quality and obviously the physicality that we have, and then you add in tournament experience, which we're gaining from playing in these big games and playing in knockout tournaments, I think we're really kind of coming to a really nice stage now as a national team and as a player pool that I'm really proud of to look at and say, like, yeah, well, we can really go toe-to-toe with anyone in my mind. And it's because of the guys' journeys and their willingness to, you know, not settle. I think that that's something that is going to keep this kind of freight train of soccer in our country growing and hopefully, you know, chugging along into another level altogether after I'm done.
What a great answer and great attitude. Eh?
Yeah, well,
but that's reflected in what we see on the pitch.
Yeah,
right.
That
Determination, that strength, that the way
just to keep moving forward and getting better.
We've already established he's never leaving Celtic, so that's it. We know that.
I'm sure,
what next for him?
Listen, he probably listens to Part the Bus every week, or he watches it, Ali. But if you don't, I'm going to give you a bit of insight here, because our Luke Wileman here was a bit disrespectful to Celtic in the Scottish League. I think we were talking about you a couple of weeks ago. And the question I want to ask you is, and I know you're very happy at a club like Celtic, but is there ambitions to go play in the English Premier League and possibly call a big club? He said, will he want to go to a big club one day?
That was
a real club.
Just for the record again, just in case, because this gets clipped up and people put it, that was a joke.
Was it really?
That was a joke.
You can't go to Glasgow anytime soon.
I'm about to say, Luke, I would love for you to land in Glasgow and walk around here with a sign that said, Celtic's not a big club.
He still thinks Sheffield United's a big club, so there you go.
The Blades are the biggest of all.
But is English Premier League an ambition of yours? It's probably a silly question. Everybody wants to play in English Premier League. But, you know, are you still thinking about where you can go, where you can end up? Or would you like to end your career at Celtic? Is there a question that you can't answer at the minute?
I think it's a really good problem to have in terms of none of those options sound bad to me in the slightest. I mean, if you were to say that I was able to finish my career at Celtic, it means that I've done something really, really, really well done. You know, I've done something right for a club of this magnitude, you know, to want to keep me in the building for that long. At the same time as, yeah, I'm a player that I've sometimes probably struggled when I get, you know, satisfied to a degree. I get comfortable. I think that's sometimes when my game can lag a little bit because of, as you guys have touched on, is that I rely so much on my physicality, my mental, you know, fortitude of being so locked in that sometimes I like being out of my comfort zone. And that's what it really kind of brings out the best in me. Yeah, the Premier League is obviously a dream, I think, of pretty much every player. It's the highest level that you can play at. But luckily, you know, in my time here at Celtic, you know, I've been able to, you know, play at some pretty big matches too in the Champions League. And you know, I don't think that match against Rangers can ever be looked down upon either. Just the energy and the tenacity of the game, you know, can sometimes take the quality out of it. But man, when you're in that match, it is something that, you know, it really is second to none. There's only a couple, you know, other, you know, rivalry matches, derbies that are, you know, even close to that size, I'd say. No, but for myself, again, right now, injured. My biggest thing is like, all right, how can I look at this, you know, this season? How can I get back to being fully fit, being myself, you know, even potentially taking another step in terms of my development, so that I can, you know, push on, especially the second half of the year here with Celtic and then really help our national team with a home World Cup. And then whatever happens after that, we'll see. But yeah, so to truly answer your question, I was kind of beating around the bush there. Yeah, of course I have aspirations to, you know, potentially play at, you know, some of the biggest leagues in the world, but at the same time, I'm really happy here. I'm really settled here. It's a great city. It's a great fan base that truly loves me and appreciates me. And the grass really isn't always greener. I think that we've seen that quite a few times. And the grass at Celtic is quite green. They grow a very, it's well watered here, the grass, I'd say that much. So I've really enjoyed myself here.
That's a great answer. And the one thing you have to realize is that these guys who were players themselves continually ask questions that they would never have answered themselves when they were actually in their playing career, like Kev trying to get goals targets out of Jonathan David and Tani Oluwaseyi. So what's your goals? No, I'm not setting a target. But
they did have one. That's the thing. So there you go.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't tell me. Yeah.
Hey, just before we go, you mentioned that Stevie coached you at one point. Was he really a bad coach? I can imagine it would have been horrible having to deal with him on the training pitch every day.
You know what? Steve was an absolute legend. He would stay out there 30 minutes after every training session if you just want to hit diags or whatever you wanted to do, and he always had a tin of shortbread cookies ready to go as well. So, no, we had some great times together. I'll have to bring some back, maybe a bottle of scotch for you as well. That'd be great. Steve was a legend. I mean, again, playing at that level, the understanding, and I think that one of my biggest things I took away from Stevo is that he also understood how the position and the sport had adapted at the back line. Is that, you know, especially when I came in, I mean, so remember they were trying to use me as a right center half that was bombing on and overlapping. Actually, a Sheffield United kind of started that under Wilder a couple of years back. And you think about how center back role had changed, and yet Stevo was still able to give me so much just great advice for a guy who used to be a defensive mid, who then had just been shoveled out to right back to start his professional career. And now I'm coming to the national team just trying to make it. And they're telling me I might be playing right center half and a back three. And I've completely lied to the gaffer saying that, yeah, I've done it before. Never done it in my life. And meanwhile, Stevo's there. He's like, look, we're going to make this work pretty much. And just nailing down all the different little things that go into being a center, how to defend your box, how to play out from the back, how to actually, you know, make contact first, jump early, you know, take your line off of people, and so many different things like that. And then to top it off, I mean, you guys know how good of a lad he is. Always a good crap. And again, yeah, always one with the cookies too. So we always appreciate it.
I sense a bit of a Scottish accent coming in there on a few of your words there. I think you might be talking like him soon enough.
It's not A anymore. It's I.
It's I. It's definitely I. It's definitely I. And I've got a couple other slang ones that I can't really say on air, but I think Steve-O could guess them.
Hey, great to have you with us. All the best in getting back. We hope to see you as soon as possible. You can still, if you want, you can still put a timeline on that, so we can say no. You still don't want to put a timeline on it?
I had the head of medical call me right before this and said, do not put a timeline on it. So.
Okay, well, November, October, December. Yeah. No. Okay.
Looking forward to having you back.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you so much.
Chat.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's always great to listen to Alistair Johnston talk, because you see there where he talks about his journey and how he appreciates where he's got to, the work he's put in. It's great for any young kid who's coming through to listen to his story, but also about the fact that, and I mentioned it, what you see there is what you get on the pitch as well. That way that he plays, that determination, hopefully we'll see him back soon. We talked about Rangers, things not going particularly well. It's not been a great start for Celtic either, has it? Some off-field issues.
Yeah.
No Champions League. I mean, it's not perfect either side in Rangers and Celtic's battle right now.
No, and I think that Celtics are expecting now to be in the Champions League every season, aren't they? Because of the stature, obviously, that they are, where they've been in the last few years. So to be dealt that blow straight off the bat that you're not in the Champions League, that's a killer for Celtic. It is. And then it questions manager. Is Brendan Rodgers now thinking he could move elsewhere? Player sales come into it as well, that Celtic now are in a different position, that they're going to have to balance books, the budgeting for Champions League football and the finance that brings in. I know we're talking Alistair Johnston. We've had the chat with him when we asked him the question at the end there around where does he see his future. But it's definitely a season like this where that could be done. If something comes around in January.
Big Ange at Forest.
Possibly,
He was his coach in Scotland, brought him there.
You could see it happening. You could see whether it's Forest, whether it's... I don't know, I could see him maybe someone like Everton or someone like that. You know David Moyes as much as I do, the sort of coach that he is, and Alistair would bring that type of stability that David Moyes would love as a fullback. So there's a number of options you can see, but I personally hope he stays at Celtic. Plays for the biggest club in the world, Luke. You know, that's right.
One of them.
Yeah.
One of them.
He's got such an infectious personality, isn't he? He's a very likeable player. And he can poke fun at himself, which I think is very important. And that's why he's loved by his teammates. And he works as hard as anybody on and off the pitch to make himself.
And that comes back to his the scenario of him as a kid, the rejection that Luke spoke of there. You have that rejection, and it's so easy for a young player. And how many times we've seen it? I was probably a little bit like that myself, to an extent where I wasn't always the best player in my team at 13, 14. And all of a sudden you get to 16, 17 and you develop. Technically, I would have always been a player that had a decent left foot. So the attributes that maybe weren't there at 12, 13, because players are almost pros now at 12 and 13. That was quite an interesting thing that he said around TFC players. Quite damning, really, saying that players within that setup think that they've made it at 15. And I've seen that. I've seen it at many Premier League academy, that they come in and train with you, young players, think they've made it.
I'm trying to think who it was. I read a quote yesterday and I thought, yes, absolutely, well said. But it was somebody who was a former Premier League player who said, why don't the kids clean the boots anymore?
Yeah.
It's like, apart from it being a connection with the first team, there was almost that hierarchy of, go in, clean the boots, all that kind of stuff.
Not just the boots, clean the boots, get the drinks ready. Back in the day when you mixed up the Lucozade.
What was your job as a YK?
That's why Stevie's so good still at bringing the teas in. I've got a picture that came up on my phone the other day from the Euros, I think it was. Stevie standing there with the tray of all the teas.
I used to make the tea.
Never brought the shortbread, though, like Alistair said. He's never brought us shortbread.
No, he just... We're waiting for that, by the way.
That must have been at night when John Herdman had gone. Stevie's running around all the dorms, giving out his shortbread packets to all of his favourite defenders.
Tell everyone I'm a good coach. Here's a bit of shortbread.
Imagine what Defoujero would get now if Stevie was still... He'd get the whole
tin.
Stevie would be just working on him analysis. Come on, let's go half an hour after every training session, and then 2 hours video analysis.
Whose boots did you clean?
I cleaned Ian Rush, legend. He was at Newcastle. Wow. The end of his career. Russia was great. He had Nike Tempos. Wow. I wasn't very good at cleaning boots, I've said. And John Beresford, remember Bez, little left back?
Yeah.
Great little player. Who else did I have? Somebody else.
Did anyone ever complain?
Yeah, Bez complained a couple of times.
Had to do it
but
again.
He knew I was hopeless. You know, I would be trying to scrub them up again. You'd get 2 or 3 players. Everyone would get 2 or 3 players. And then, as I mentioned, there would be groups that would get the juice back then, the Lucozade. You have to mix it up, put the right powder in. Obviously, if it wasn't to a standard, the first team guys would go crazy. They'd know who was on it. They'd be hammering you. And it's great. To me, it's character building. You would have the equipment. You'd have to set up. The coach would say to you, right, go set that up, Kev. A 60 by 40 pitch, 2 goals. Put the cones. I want them in red. You know, they'd be very specific. Put 6 bibs out, 6 pennies, 6 that side. They'd be very specific, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And you had to do that every day.
It was
clean it up.
It was a great experience. It was. I said I did the tea every morning. I used to go in. So I'd be in at like 8 o'clock or something as YTs. You'd be in. Pros would usually start arriving from 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you'd have to go in with a pot of tea. So you'd knock on the door, and you'd walk in, and you'd wait for the come in, whatever. You couldn't walk in the first team's dressing room. You had to wait to be invited in. So you'd knock on the door, you go in, and I wouldn't make eye contact with anybody. I'd just keep my head down, and I'd put a pot of tea down on the table, and I'd walk straight. Whoa, come here. Let me taste the tea. And then you get someone come over, taste the tea. That's crap. Take that back, whatever it will be. And you'd
go make another one.
Yeah, and you were so so nervous around it. But as you say, it built you for when you played, first of all, reserve team football as it was then, and then to get into the first team, you were different. You had to grow quickly.
It's so interesting though, because when you think of this era, there's a part of you thinks of that as like bullying in nature, but it's character building for what you're going to face.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about it. About Celtic Rangers and Derek Cornelius and pressure.
You're playing for Sunderland and you're losing games, and it's almost as if what happened then has set you up to deal with that sort of pressure when you're there.
And you got to stand up to it. Look, you got to learn from making the tea. It sounds so like arbitrary, but that is what leads to being out there in front of 50,000 and being reliable and trustworthy to a teammate.
If that was Arsenal now, you'd have Max Dowman cleaning Odegaard's boots, then going on for him.
They'd lacing them.
You know? Then doing his own.
The thing was, it would be he's 15, so he wouldn't have been able to. You had to be 16 to officially start cleaning boots.
Oh, really?
So
Do jobs
when you were a certain age.
And I only bring this up. I want to talk about club v country in a few minutes. We've seen the Yamal, we've seen Hansi Flick talking about it, the issues that have come up. I do want to get onto that, but just before that, because he had a couple of digs at Sheffield United already.
Okay.
And even Alistair Johnston, and I didn't want to mention it when Alistair was on, but the fact that he's brought up Chris Wilder, and it didn't,
made you so happy,
it didn't have to be me bringing up Chris Wilder. Sheffield United, it's been a difficult few months, right?
Very.
92 points last year, get to Wembley, losing the playoff final. Then the new owners who think they know the club clearly didn't. Fire Chris Wilder, bring in Ruben Sayers.
Yeah.
We haven't scored a goal since opening day. We've lost 6 games in a row, 5 in the league, bottom of the table, out of the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Ruben Sayers is gone. Chris Wilder is coming back for his 3rd spell as the coach.
He can't take the smile off his face.
He loves it. He loves Chris Wilder.
But legend. There are some clubs that just are what they are. And I'm fine. That's my club.
Yeah.
We are what we are. We are a Neil Warnock, a Dave Bassett, a Chris Wilder. Let's get up and at them. We are not a sexy football, Spanish, AI kind of club, right? It's never going to work, right? So let's get back on with it. Let's go. Bring Chrissy Boy back in. Here we go.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
the Blades are back.
We're never going to be that kind of club. I just don't agree. I think if you get things right and you get the infrastructure right...
You've got to do it over a long period of time. To do that, to flip from Wilder to that. And in fairness to Wilder as well, Wilder's played some brilliant football.
He's been progressive coach.
Progressive coach, that has a bit of a mixture of what's needed to fight and scrap out to get results, but also with a bit of quality that he's got as well. Yeah. But to flip it and then go the other side, to do that so quickly, and then you find yourself, those stats that you read out there, it's just... It's mind-blowing when an owner will come in and do that. I think that you've got to have some sort of... Even if you just go, look, Wilder 6 months, it might not be Wilder that we want long-term, but we have to think about our long-term strategy rather than just think of it to turn over.
Anyway, that's enough. Sheffield United.
Last bit, isn't it crazy the money that's in this game? in the way that, you know, these clubs are trying to evolve and become massive. And the recruitment of coaches, rightly or wrongly, Ruben says, Russell Martin, could be successful, but when the fans lose the trust, they're done.
Yeah, they're done.
The fans still run the football clubs.
And
maybe so they should, because they know the club better than anybody else. But, you know, these...
And an ownership group that 80-something days ago were going in a different direction and didn't want this and wanted to play this way and wanted to be... And now have thrown it all out and
pay
gone
this
back,
guy off,
gone back the other way.
Spend all this money bringing this guy in, paying that guy off, and then all of a sudden they've got to go back to...
But if you go back, then you're still paying the guy off from before, so it doesn't matter.
That's probably why he got the job.
Anyway, Club v Country, did you ever have battles with Club v Country? And also, is it different now because it's a World Cup year? Like Lamine Yamal now, apparently, that the issue is that he was hurt, played international duty. Also, you want to play, don't you? If you're away on international duty in a World Cup year.
Yeah, I took injections to play at times at international football.
Did the club know that?
No. Club didn't know about it, no. I wouldn't have even wanted to tell them. I remember I'd done my shoulder quite badly. I'd fallen on it. I never went for scans or anything, but I knew it was a bad one. And I couldn't raise my arm above my head. So I got an injection to play. I can't remember which game it was, actually, but I took but never said a word to my club because it then I think it puts pressure on the relationship and some things, you know, I knew myself that I'll get through the game regardless. Whatever happens, I might have needed a bit of help just to relieve that pain on me, but I'm going to get through that game. It was wrong, and if I was a club coach or a club manager, I would have been fuming with the international setup. But they knew me as a player and as a person as well, so they knew what I would have done, and I wouldn't have made a big fuss about it and not needed to. So I suppose it's know the players, and I see it constantly where an international player turns up for international duty, and it used to wind me up because they turn up and they're almost just ready to get back on the plane, as it was when we were flying into Ireland, get back on the plane before they even arrive. But they'd show up out of duty. Like, no, just if you want to play for this team, you have got to show more than just if you've got a bit of a knock or something like that.
Yeah.
So many players did do that, and it used to wind me up. Obviously, if you've got a genuine injury and you get the medical team assess you and realise that you're not fit to play, then you're gone. Then obviously I know that, but.
You'd put your club at... You'd put your
international football, I said it last week, international football was above it all. To me, that was the ultimate. I used to base my whole club career around playing international football.
So this is interesting. Just because, speaking to Mauricio Pochettino last week, and in the way that he has built his squad since he took over with the US, he wants to make sure that when it gets to the World Cup next year, his players are in the best possible shape.
Yeah.
And if that means not calling them in because one or two players are carrying something or a player just made a move at the end of the transfer window and he wants to help them to settle into their new club so that when the window's finished that they're back in the starting 11 and they're good to go, he's willing to sacrifice the September window and not even sometimes call players up or play them because he's looking at the longer-term goal of are they all going to be fit and ready to go for the World Cup next year?
I think that's a mistake.
I think so. I do.
I think that every window, as we've said with Canada especially, is so important. So it's the same for the US. You have to pick guys, call them in that should be there, that you want to be there.
Yeah.
The thing that people don't tell you about football is it's a team sport. But it's the most selfish game in the world, isn't it, Kev?
Yes.
So there's no hypocrisy from Hansi Flick. People saying, oh, he's a hypocrite. He was a Germany manager, now he's Barcelona coach. And no, he only wants what's best for him and then his team.
But my point on what Pochettino would say is, should Spain not be protecting Yamal? Should Spain not be making sure that
Spain made a mistake, in my opinion, because the result was so comfortable.
It's different with the age that he's at. Don't get me wrong, Yamal probably still needs a little bit of protection because of the age he's at, because we all want to see him at the World Cup next summer. And in all honesty, I watched that game against Turkey. It's one of the best performances I've seen from any nation in the last few years. Spain were honestly incredible against Turkey. 6-0. They were getting applauded by the Turkish crowd when they were leaving the field. It was the most amazing thing to see.
So was he needy? That's the question that I'm saying. Was that a risk that wasn't worth taking?
Did he? He didn't start.
No, that was the one that came on to, you know. Yeah, so did he need to come on, you know?
No, absolutely didn't.
Right.
He absolutely didn't. He created the goal, the last goal, I can't remember, was it scored actually, the little overlapping run. on, and then it was a great finish at the end. But no, he didn't need to go on. He didn't, because there were 4 up at the time. 5.
That was a mistake then.
So that's a mistake to me, and I think that's where you get that little bit of credit in the bank with the club. But as you say, a name like Hansi Flick doesn't care. He's not bothered about a relationship with Barcelona or anybody else.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about that.
And to be fair, coming back to Canada, we've had that issue in terms of hearing about Bayern Munich being unhappy with Jesse Marsch and the handling of Alphonso Davies back when he got hurt back in March.
Yeah, because they're selfish. Because they only care about, is he available for my team on that day?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say,
club,
you know?
The club, at the end of the day, if the club, want them 100% ready for them to play. If Alphonso Davies is not producing the form that is necessary to play for a Bayern Munich shirt, he's gone. He's done. The clubs are selfish. They'll never make out that. They try to make out, loyalty. We talk about the Isak thing and things like that. But any club, if a player's not producing and performing, will show you the door quickly. And we talk about, we're just going quickly back to the Alistair Johnston thing, what you're saying before about 14 and 15-year-olds thinking they make it. When they're out the game at 17 and 18, mentally they're not prepared for that. And it's the same with the clubs. Don't care. They generally don't care. If you're not producing for them, you're done. Thank you very much. Let's move on. So it's, as much as we'll have the debate around it, I think Lamal's a different scenario, different situation, because I think he needs to be protected a little bit better than just throwing him out there to play a game at international level, no matter what I'm saying, because to me, as I said, it was the pinnacle, the ultimate thing to me was playing international football.
I mean, you wouldn't have turned down a Scotland call,
Not a
even
chance.
if you had half a leg.
So I played at Villa Park last game of the season for Sunderland in the Premier League, and I got a knee injury. I had to come off the field. And I knew I'd done my medial. It was very sore. And I drove to Scotland the next day to be assessed before we went on a summer tour to Tokyo, to Japan for a couple of games against Bulgaria and Japan. I wanted to go so much. And somehow I passed this medical. I got to say, I don't know how the doc passed me, but I was delighted because I was going with Scotland. I knew there was a very outside chance I'd play in the games, but I wanted to be in Tokyo. I wanted to be with my mates. And I went on the trip, and I got past the go and never ended up playing. But I would never, nor I went to Scotland and tried my best to be on that bench or in the starting 11 or at least with my buddies at Hampden or elsewhere. Represent Scotland. It's the loyalty that you have to show to your nation is immense. And unfortunately, I've seen it, as Kev said, with other players that don't feel like that. Even in my coaching days with Canada, and I won't name names, players prioritised clubs ahead of the national team in windows.
I know that.
But they said they didn't want to play because they wanted to protect themselves.
Isn't that the way it is now?
For the season. It shouldn't be.
But is that...
No.
Do you not think that is the overarching view?
I'm going back 30 years now. I know Canada soccer was in a different place 20 years ago.
I don't say it should be, but
I played with guys, Canadian internationals, that would just say openly, I am not getting on that plane to go back and play for Canada. And I know it. Two internationals have said that to me, 2 different clubs that I played at. Now, we're going back, 30 years now at this stage, isn't it? So it's a long time.
And counting.
And I think Canada soccer were in a different place. But I think when I'm turning up to play for my country and the guys that are prepared to pull out of a friendly, and friendlies to me did mean an awful lot. And I miss friendlies. I had an amazing record for me personally to play the amount of games that I played, but to play the competitive games, I think I started every game between 1999 and 2011. So I had like a 12-year period where I started every international game competitively. So, but the friendly still meant a lot to me. But there was occasionally if I have got a slight injury or something that might get, and they'd have that conversation, and you pulled from the game. And I had issues with my back towards the back end of my career. So there were certain friendlies that I did miss. But they did mean a lot to me. Certainly in the early days of my career, it was establishing myself amongst my peers, the players that I looked up to, my heroes in many respects. A lot of them when I first got into the international setup. So the friendlies meant a lot to me personally when I first started, and even I took that through my mid-20s, even towards the latter end of my career. But there were certain games that you've got to look at the bigger picture.
So to Luke's point, do you think that players now prioritise clubs, probably because of the money, the wages, the finances?
It depends.
I don't know. I still think that there is some...
I think it's closer than you guys think in a locker room of international players.
I think I'm being a bit
I don't want to believe
in my own judgment.
I don't want to believe that, maybe. Maybe that's what it is.
I think Luke's right. I think it probably is a 70-30 club-wise now, that a lot of players... Honestly, like my national team, Ireland, at the moment, are having an absolute shocker.
Are they?
Yes.
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, it's shocking.
The dentist isn't doing it?
I'm probably saying it could be one of the worst performances in our history. And I've been I've been part of some bad games, some horrendous games, but that was one of the worst performances I've seen from an international team in Armenia last week. And there'll probably now be certain players that will be thinking, can I turn up to play next game when they've got Portugal or whoever it's going to be? And it's the time where you really stand up to be counted, that your fans will be giving them a lot of stick and they'll be slaughtering them probably when they're in possession of the ball, but it's those moments where you really grow and you become a player. And these are the sort of moments now. Canada are in a different position. We know that because of where they are and the standard of football.
You can never
that
put
playing.
that against the vast majority, if not all of these guys, that they don't want to be there
for
Canada.
Yeah. No way.
And that's why they're doing so well, isn't it? That's a hallmark of why they're
it comes down to
reflected in how you play and how the squad looks
exactly.
together. So
I could have got 50-something caps, I bet you, potentially, and I got 12.
Yeah.
So I was in so many camps where I was looked over or, someone else was chosen. I had a bad game the game before. I was dropped the next game.
Yeah.
It never worked out for me, but I always wanted to go.
Yeah.
Always was delighted to go and proud to go.
It speaks volumes even around Canada now with the players, as we say, that have been on the periphery for a long time. They know they might only get one chance.
Yeah.
So they have to take that chance when you get it. And that's what football's about at the end of the day, isn't it?
And even Alistair Johnston, when we talked to him there, talking about the fact that even now if you have one bad training session, you're thinking, is that going to cost me my place in the starting lineup, which is great to hear from his perspective of the competition that's going on. We've got to wrap it up because Kev has to go back to keep building fences for his chickens.
Yeah. It's worth noting as well, thanks for joining us this week. James Duffy was asked to come on again. We've asked him several times now to come on the podcast. He politely declined to come on, but we'll keep asking him. We'll keep asking him. It's good to have you back this week, Luke, anyway.
Thanks, guys.
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Steven Caldwell, Kevin Kilbane and Luke Wileman.